Coming up on today's show.
You know what? For the next hour, I need to focus, and there is nothing urgent that's going to come through that email.
You know what I think is really funny is when you're in an office environment and someone emails you and then walks over 30 seconds later, hey, did you get my email?
So some people like to have thinking space. So they need the space and they need transition time.
Taking your time management to the next level, part 2, today on Keeping You Organized. Well, welcome back to Keeping You Organized. Hopefully you got to watch part 1 of this podcast last time, where we're talking about taking your time management to the next level. You maybe have a good time management system in place, but it could be tweaked, it could be better, and we want you to get freshly organized in your time management. So that means we bring on Amy Tokus from FreshlyOrganized.com. Amy, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, this time management subject is a big one, and a lot of people sometimes believe they have a great system. And we kind of talked about, in fact, let's recap a little bit about what we talked about last time as far as some of the basics to get prepared for creating a new time management system. We talked about that time journal. Explain that a little bit.
Yes, the time journal is just spending some time and effort tracking exactly how you're spending your time every day. And if you can do this for 2 weeks and you write down everything that you do and you be very specific so that you're capturing not large groups of items. I think the example I gave last time was, checking email, but someone says, please go check this website out, and you go to the website and then you're doing research on the website and then you come back and do email. We want to make sure we're breaking that into specifics so it doesn't say, I spent half an hour on email and only did one email, when actually you were doing, 28 minutes of research, yeah. And then you came back and did that email.
Right. And then we talked about maybe sorting those into some groupings, kind of identifying, going back and evaluating what it was that, how you spent your time. And I bet people get surprised, don't they? I know I am. I've done this a few times over my career, and every time I do it, I go, oh, you got to be kidding me. I'm doing that.
Right.
You have any surprise stories like that where people have looked at it and have said, wow, I didn't realize I did, this much time doing this?
Oh, yes. A lot of people don't realize that they're either overestimating or underestimating their time commitments. So they, might have meetings that they're planning an hour for, and it's only taken 45 minutes. Or maybe they think that, oh, I'm going to be traveling, so this is my time to get to the airport and check in. And so I'm going to allot, TSA says I need 3 hours, whereas I live in little Omaha, Nebraska, and the airport, and the security only takes 25 minutes, yeah. Or from check-in to gate takes about 25 minutes. So there's this whole timing things and saying, ding, 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 I see something here that I can change my perspective on.
Yeah, so we talked about that, so overestimating, underestimating. Then we started to get into, okay, we've maybe identified the distractions as one of the things that kind of clogs up our system. So let's kind of talk about how you deal with distractions. I know there's like people stopping by if you're in an office environment. There's phone calls. There's emails, especially when they start popping up on your screen and you say, oh, or text. People believe that if you get a text, you have to answer it right away. So yes. How do we deal with these things?
We talked a little bit about strategies, closing the email, putting your phone to the side, but the biggest picture is setting some boundaries.
Okay.
And knowing that, I talk to a lot of people about when you email somebody, is there the expectation that they get back to you in 10 minutes? And if that's the expectation, then maybe there's a little bit of shift that needs to happen. So emails, we're not going to expect a 10-minute response from our team. I talk a lot to managers about, if you're emailing at 7, 8 p.m. at night, then you're setting up the expectation that your employees email you back at 7, 8 p.m. at night.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to set some boundaries and some time constraints. So shutting off your email and saying, um, you know what, for the next hour, I need to focus. And there is nothing urgent that's going to come through that email that can't wait for an hour.
Right.
And we do it all the time. But when we're sitting at our desk, it's very funny because when we're sitting at our desk, the perception is I need to be on it. I need to be keeping up. I need to be answering everything that's coming to me. But when we go to a meeting for an hour, and sometimes when I do training sessions, people are like, I can't leave my email for an hour.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? You're sitting right here and you're doing it.
Right.
I haven't seen, well, hopefully I haven't seen anyone answering their emails while I'm training them.
Well, you know what I think is really funny is when you're in an office environment and someone emails you and then walks over 30 seconds later, hey, did you get my email?
Right.
It's like, well, I don't know. I had to breathe first before and it's like,
Right.
why didn't you just walk over here? I mean, there's email. So I know those distractions. I always like to tell this story. I may have done it on one of our podcasts before, where in my other office, I have closed door time. It's like, and then I put a note in there. For the next hour, I'm busy conference. I put something on there, but there's still people banging on the door saying we need to talk to you. So
Yeah.
So
But that's a great boundary to set. I love that strategy, but also communicating it with the team and saying, this is what this means.
Yes.
I'll open my door soon and you can get in to ask me questions.
Yeah. Well, and I think that we touched on this a little bit. I had the guy who would always come in every day, and I realized that I needed to schedule an appointment. So are there other little tactics like that you can set up to be like proactive, I guess, to overcome some of those things that, I've heard tips like from other people, have your Outlook open to the calendar instead of the to-do list. So, and start working on, in your first hour, work on a very important priority before you open your email and, all kinds of things like that. Do you have any little tips like that?
Yes. There's all sorts of things you can do. You just have to figure out what's working for you. And there's times when you're completely productive.
Yep.
And so going back to that time journal will bring into focus, oh my gosh, that Thursday morning, I was able to focus on this project for an hour and a half solid, and I really got some stuff done. And so you look at that, okay, what were the circumstances of that morning? Maybe one of your coworkers was out of the office, the one that's the distraction, or maybe, maybe the Wi-Fi was down. And so you couldn't get on any of the Wi-Fi. What are the circumstances of that? And then bringing that into your regular routine. So, Wi-Fi was down. Okay, so maybe I need to step out and go somewhere where I don't have Wi-Fi because this is my issue and this is my distraction. And then I can work on my Excel spreadsheets or work on this document I'm working on, whatever it is that I don't need Wi-Fi for, and I can get it knocked out without the distractions.
Right.
Or if it's a coworker, number one, talking to them about some boundaries. If my door's closed, this is the boundary. Or again, stepping into a conference room and just kind of scooting away so they don't see you, and you're not in their line of vision, so you're not a distraction.
Yeah, I know.
They're not a distraction.
Again, another example that I have from a past work thing. I had to do some research stuff, but I could never get it done in my office because of the distraction. So I'd always schedule a meeting. It was usually Thursday mornings, and I would go out to a coffee shop. And even though there's noise there, but you couldn't get I didn't have my email with me, and I would just do this research and then come back later, and everything was still there. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk now. We've talked a lot about some of these tactical ways to deal with distractions, but I think there's one more thing we need to talk about, which is how do we kind of proactively put things on our calendar. And we haven't talked about things like margin and white space either, which I think are kind of important in time management too. So we'll do that when we come back with Amy Tokus from Freshly Organized. Now there's a place just for you. Life can be busy and you still have to keep it all together. That's why you like to be organized and in control. Introducing MyOrganized.life, a special place where you can get ideas and solutions to organize what's important to you, your important papers, your important decisions, your important life events. We show you the ideas and products to stay organized in your life. See what's new. Stop by and say hello. Visit us at any time at www.myorganized.life. It's just for you. MyOrganized.life by Smead. Find us at www.myorganized.life. MyOrganized.life. We're back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about taking your time management to the next level. And we've covered a lot of good tactical things as far as how to deal with distractions. We're with Amy Tokus from FreshlyOrganized.com. And Amy, we've gotten a lot of good tips over this episode and our last as well. But let's talk about how we deal with time before we actually deal with it. So maybe, the weekly planning or the daily planning. How does planning play into this whole time management system?
Oh, you know what? Planning and communication are huge. If you're working with a team, the planning aspect is really big because we need to communicate to everybody what the plan is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
Yep. Here's the plan.
Go back and forth. Yeah, here's the plan.
Yep.
But, when I work with managers, I talk a lot about, let's have a Monday morning powwow. Yeah. So the whole team comes together. We know what is on everybody's task list and what they're tackling this week, where they need help. And then let's get help on the schedule if needed. Let's get anything that we can tactically take and put on the schedule. Let's get it on the schedule.
Okay. So for you personally, how do you plan your week out? Do you have like either a Friday or a Sunday planning time for the next week? And how do you decide what goes where?
For me, I started discovering by doing a time journal and looking at my calendar that most of my clients scheduled during the middle of the week. Nobody wanted to schedule on Friday afternoon. And Monday morning, usually people are focused on their own jobs and not really interested in having someone come help them with productivity. So I decided, looking at my calendar, that my Monday mornings is my planning time. Okay. So I look at my week Monday morning. I make sure that I've got everything on my calendar. I make sure that if I need to follow up with someone, so I see I've got a training session on Wednesday and, the person coordinating hasn't given me the location exactly. I know about where it is, but I don't know the room it's in. So that's when I send out all my emails to make sure my schedule's good and get anything ready that needs to be ready. So that's what works for me for my planning time, but everyone's different. Right. I'm very proactive and I like to be looking forward. I don't like to be surprised and be like, oh my gosh, like what? Yeah. This is a surprise. I didn't know that this was going to happen.
Yeah. Now what?
Because I'm.
Yeah. So what about that? So this perfect segue into white space or margin. I mean, do you just fill your day all day, every hour, or do you try to leave some? I know this maybe goes back to estimating what we talked about earlier in the plan, but do you leave space between things on your calendar so that your calendar's not just I mean, doctors will have, overlapping appointments so they can be super efficient and they do all their paperwork later, but how do you recommend people use white space or margin?
Great question. And I think it really depends on the person. So some people like to have thinking space. So they need the space and they need transition time. I worked with somebody who had back-to-back meetings scheduled every, once a week. And they met with the same people back to back. And we reviewed that, and she found that she needed transition time. She was struggling because she's like, I'm sitting here, and it was all conference calls. So she was at her desk, and But she was like, I'm scrambling in between and I don't feel like I'm prepared for my next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So we gave her 10 minutes as all she needed of buffer time.
Hmm.
Okay. But then you have doctors who, some of them, I don't know if all of them are like that, who like the back to back to back on top of each other because they like to keep going, keep going, keep going. And then they get caught up and they do their paperwork at the end of the day, or maybe they do stuff at the beginning of the day. So you have to find the routine and rhythm that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say if you feel like you're always behind and struggling, then you need to make an adjustment. You need to figure out what it is that's going on and how you can switch some things around so it works better for you. Don't follow other people's models because everybody's completely different and what they need and the time they need.
Right. And I think that going back to the very first step, which is the time journal, you'll discover some of those things and they may be surprises. And then you do have to make your own decision and say, okay, you know what? I need to, spend this amount of time doing, this task. Let me ask you another personal question about you. Email. Do you do email in blocks or how do you handle your email flow?
Yes, I do it in blocks because even when I'm at my desk, which I'm not at my desk a whole lot, but that Monday morning or Friday afternoon, if I'm at my desk working, um, I will do, I usually, and I know people say don't do email first thing in the morning,
Yep.
but I like to do email first thing in the morning because I like to check all those things off my list.
Yep.
Uh, but that's me personally. So you got to figure out because I can very easily get through all my email, then I can shift my focus and work on a project. So if I'm working on a project, it's going to bother me that I don't know what's in my email. And so I'm going to have a harder time focusing on my project.
Okay. Let me ask you how you do.
Okay, but that's
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was going to.
That's me though.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, so let's getting specific about email because let's treat it like we do mail, where we open it, we either act on it. So do you have a little system for either I deal with it, I file it, I throw it away? I mean, are you dealing with email like that?
Yeah, totally. I forward it, I delegate it, I act on it, or
Toss it
I
out.
file it. Yeah, I file it or delete it. And yes, I love to use folders and I like my inbox to be my active items.
Mm-hmm.
So those 5 or 6 items in my inbox, I know everybody's surprised I only have 5 or 6 items, but those are the things that are ongoing right now.
Okay.
So either I'm waiting for a reply or there's a training session tomorrow and she sent me an email today about it and I want to make sure that I've got it captured in my calendar so it's sitting there, so there's things like that.
Yeah. Well, we're just about out of time. I want to talk just for a moment about Freshly Organized. Tell us about your business, how people can reach out to you. Do you just work in the Omaha area or do you have a virtual part? And let people know your website.
Yes, it's freshlyorganized.com. And my specialty is really productivity. I've done a lot of residential stuff, and I've got some employees that are doing more of the residential. And we work mostly in Omaha. We have a few virtual clients, but we love the Omaha area. I love the people of Omaha. And I know you're a Midwesterner too, so that's good. We got to love those Midwesterners. But yes, you feel free to check out the website. And if you have any questions, just email me and I can go into more detail about what we talked about today.
Great. Well, I love Omaha too. I have family from there, so it is a great place. Lots of Swedes from there, so like our family. But anyway, well, Amy, this has been great. We have 2 great episodes of time management tips that will take you from what you think might be a good time management system to the next level. Encourage people even just to take the first step to the time journal. Do that for a couple weeks. Really analyze where you're at so you can then make some changes, make some shifts, adjustments to what you're doing and take it to the next level. So we'll have you back again too, Amy, I'm sure.
Oh, good. Thank you.
All right, folks, there you have it. Get that time journal done and get on task, and we'll see you next time. We'll be on time for that, too, on keeping you organized.